Let me ask you something that might make you stop and smile as you remember it. Have you ever been sitting close to someone, not saying anything dramatic, barely even speaking, yet the moment felt electric, like the air between you was suddenly charged, even though nothing obvious was happening? Just a glance that lasted a second longer, a pause that felt full, or the simple warmth of proximity that made your heart beat a little differently. If you've ever felt that, you already know what real connection can feel like. And today we're going to talk about exactly how those moments are created. Not through bold moves or clever lines, but through a small shift in awareness that turns ordinary interactions into something unforgettable. Welcome back, or if this is your first time here, I'm really glad you're here. We're diving into the quiet psychology of connection and attraction, the subtle emotional cues that shape how others experience you. Before we go deeper, take a moment and think about your own life. Have you ever been with someone where everything just felt intense, even when nothing big was happening? That's exactly what we're exploring today. Not tricks, not manipulation, just a real understanding of how the human mind and body naturally respond when the right signals line up. Here's the truth most people miss. Attraction is rarely built through loud, obvious actions. It emerges in the quiet spaces, the subtle pauses, the near moments, the small shifts your brain notices before your conscious mind even catches up. One of the reasons certain kinds of touch feel so powerful comes down to how your nervous system is wired. Not every part of the body is equally sensitive. Some areas have a much higher concentration of nerve endings, so any stimulation there sends stronger, faster, and more emotionally charged signals straight to the brain. But what makes it even more fascinating isn't just the physical sensitivity. It's how the brain interprets that sensation. When touch happens in those sensitive areas, the brain doesn't treat it as ordinary contact. It automatically links it with closeness, intimacy, and emotional meaning. That's when something purely physical starts to become deeply psychological. Picture this in real life. You're sitting next to someone you feel comfortable with. The conversation is flowing easily. There's warmth and ease, nothing forced. Then there's a subtle shift. Maybe you both lean in just a little closer, or the space between you narrows naturally. Suddenly your awareness heightens. You notice your own breathing. Their presence feels more vivid. Even the silence between words starts to feel charged. That small shift alone activates something deeper in the mind. This is where so many people misunderstand attraction. They think it's about doing more, bigger compliments, grand gestures, constant action. But in reality, the strongest moments often come from recognizing what's already unfolding beneath the surface. The skin plays a huge role here, especially in areas where it's thinner and more responsive. The neck, the jawline, and the soft space just behind the ear are particularly sensitive because the nerves sit closer to the surface. Even the lightest touch there can feel intensified. Not because of pressure, but because the sensation reaches the brain so quickly and clearly. And here's where it gets really interesting. The response isn't just physical. The brain instantly attaches emotional meaning to it. It connects the touch with trust, closeness, and something personal rather than casual. That's why a gentle, well-timed moment can feel far more powerful than something rushed or intense. Now, consider this insight that might completely change how you see these interactions. The brain often responds more strongly to anticipation than to the actual action itself. Research on the brain's reward system shows that when we anticipate something, dopamine gets released, the same chemical linked to pleasure, motivation, and excitement. But the peak of that release often happens before the moment even arrives. So what does that mean in everyday life? It means the build-up, the pause, the almost, is where the real emotional intensity forms. Think back to a time when something meaningful felt like it was about to happen but didn't right away. Maybe someone leaned in slowly, then paused. Maybe eye contact lingered just a little longer than expected. That uncertainty, that what happens next feeling, is where the mind becomes fully engaged. And once the mind is engaged, the whole experience becomes memorable. This is exactly why slow, intentional movement carries more weight than quick, impulsive actions. When something happens too fast, the brain doesn't have time to process it. There's no build-up, no emotional layering, it simply passes by. But when a moment unfolds gradually, the brain starts collecting details, breathing patterns, subtle posture changes, the warmth of proximity, even the silence. Suddenly something simple becomes deeply significant. Let's make this practical. Because understanding is important, but application is where real change happens. First, pay attention to your pace. Most of us rush through interactions without realizing it. Speaking quickly, moving quickly, reacting quickly. But when you naturally slow down, everything shifts. Next time you're in a calm conversation, notice your breathing. Let it settle. Allow comfortable pauses instead of feeling the need to fill every silence. Keep soft, relaxed eye contact without forcing it. You'll start to notice the entire emotional atmosphere around you begins to change. Second, focus on genuine presence. This is incredibly powerful. People can sense when your attention is divided, and they can also feel when you are fully there with them. Not trying to impress, not overthinking, just present. That kind of presence creates a deep sense of safety. And safety is what allows real emotional openness to happen. I once spoke with a woman in her late 50s who described a moment she never forgot. There was nothing dramatic, no grand gestures, no romantic setting. Just a quiet conversation with someone she trusted. At one point, he simply paused, looked at her with calm attention, and didn't rush to fill the space. She said it felt like time slowed down. Nothing obvious happened, yet emotionally, everything did. That's the quiet power of psychological tension. And to be clear, this isn't about creating pressure or discomfort. It's not about playing games with uncertainty. It's about leaving respectful space for curiosity, awareness, and natural emotional buildup. This tension lives in the space between intention and action. When that space is honored, the mind leans in. It becomes curious, engaged, and emotionally invested. This is also where subtle gestures gain so much meaning. Body language influences everything we've talked about. Humans are constantly reading nonverbal signals. Posture, eye contact, breathing, movement. When your body language is calm and grounded, it creates a completely different emotional response than when it feels tense or rushed. Confidence here isn't about dominance. It's about ease, feeling comfortable in your own skin and moving with intention instead of urgency. The brain is highly sensitive to emotional tone. If your energy feels calm and steady, even small gestures carry real weight. If it feels scattered or forced, even bigger actions lose their impact. So it's never really about doing more. It's about how you show up. Let's bring all of this together. Real connection happens when multiple signals align naturally. Touch, proximity, warmth, presence, and timing. When these elements come together without force, the brain interprets the moment as meaningful, something worth remembering. That's why subtlety often creates more impact than intensity. Subtle moments invite the mind to engage, to imagine, and to feel. What if the most powerful part of attraction isn't what you do, but what you allow to build? What if the deepest connections happen in the pauses, the quiet awareness, the moments where nothing obvious is happening, yet everything is being felt? Once you start noticing this, you can't unsee it. There's an even deeper layer. What makes a moment powerful isn't just the action itself, it's the meaning the brain assigns to it. Beneath everything, the mind is quietly asking two questions. Is this safe? And does this matter? When both answers feel like yes, something opens naturally without any force. This is why certain areas of the body feel different. Not only are they physically sensitive, but psychologically they're more personal. These aren't spaces we allow just anyone into. So when someone enters that space slowly and respectfully, the brain recognizes it as meaningful. It's not just contact, it's access. And access is directly tied to trust. When approached with patience and care, the mind doesn't resist. It leans in. It begins associating that person with comfort, safety, and real understanding. Compare that to rushed behavior. When things move too quickly, the brain reacts instead of responding. And reaction often brings tension. But when moments unfold gradually, the brain stays open and receptive. Anticipation becomes a beautiful thing, not just waiting but active engagement. The mind gets involved in what might happen next. Imagine sitting beside someone in comfortable silence. No pressure. Then they slowly shift a little closer, just enough for you to notice. Then, a pause. In that pause, your awareness heightens. You notice their breathing, the warmth, the energy in the space between you. That pause isn't empty, it's full of possibility. And this is where many people go wrong. They rush to fill the space. But that space is the moment. When you allow it to exist, even briefly, the mind becomes more engaged. It starts to feel instead of just observe. None of this works without the right internal state. You can't fake calm presence. Your body always tells the truth. So how do you develop it? Start with simple awareness of your own breathing, posture, and pace. When your breath slows, your nervous system follows. Your movements become smoother and more intentional. People can feel that steadiness. It doesn't demand attention, but it naturally draws it. I once worked with a man in his early 60s who felt completely disconnected from attraction. He thought those kinds of moments were behind him. But the issue wasn't age, it was awareness. He had been rushing through interactions, focused only on saying the right things. When we worked on slowing down, breathing, allowing pauses, and staying present with relaxed eye contact, everything changed. Later he told me, for the first time in years, I felt the moment had weight. That's the shift, not a new technique, but real awareness. Another key layer is emotional presence. The brain doesn't just respond to physical closeness. It responds to being truly seen. When someone feels genuinely paid attention to, it creates a powerful emotional experience. Even small gestures, a glance, a pause, become meaningful when they come from real presence. When emotional awareness combines with physical sensitivity, the brain interprets the moment as significant, not because of what's happening on the surface, but because of how it feels underneath. So ask yourself honestly, how often do you let moments breathe? How often do you slow down enough to truly experience what's unfolding? In our fast-paced world, genuine presence is rare, and that rarity creates real value. If this is shifting how you see everyday interactions, drop the word aware in the comments below. I read every single one, and it helps me know what deeper topics you want to explore next. Share this video with someone who might benefit from understanding this subtle side of psychology. Because ultimately, the most powerful moments aren't created by intensity. They're created by alignment. Alignment between your body, your mind, your pace, and your presence. When those are in sync, even the simplest interaction can feel deeply engaging and memorable. You now have the awareness. The rest is about practicing it with calm confidence. Thank you for spending this time with me. I'll see you in the next video, where we go even deeper into the quiet forces that shape real connection.